Hi, I hope you guys are having a good night. I am here with a Bible study for tonight. Tonight we'll be doing a Bible study in the book of Matthew. The Bible studies in the book of Matthew are always so good. Matthew is, in my opinion, a great book of the Bible to do a Bible study in. Let's see here. We'll be doing Matthew chapter 14 tonight. And Matthew chapter 14 verse 29 is the verse that will go along with tonight's devotion. And that verse says, "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came towards Jesus. That's when I told you guys that Jesus was not the only one who walked on water. You may remember, Peter also walked on water, but he lost his faith and then he fell in and was drowning, and Jesus rescued him out of the water. And Jesus said, "You have little faith, why did you lose faith?" That's why he fell in. He lost his faith. He got scared and looked down. So I'm going to read all of chapter 14, and then I'll read the devotion for tonight, and we'll go over the homework if you want to do it, and then we'll go over the 3 verses we're supposed to be memorizing. All right, so I will read now Matthew chapter 14. We'll be talking in John chapter 15, sorry, it's got John in it. In Matthew chapter 14 about John the Baptist being beheaded, about Jesus walking on water, and you'll see that Peter did as well. So that's what chapter 14 of Matthew is about. At that time, Herod, the Tetrarch, heard the reports about Jesus, and he said to his attendants, "That is John the Baptist. He has risen from the dead. That is why miraculous powers are at work in him." Now Herod had arrested John, bound him, and put him in prison because of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife. For John had been saying to him, "It is not lawful for you to have her," because he had his brother's wife. Herod wanted to kill John, but he was afraid of the people because they considered him a prophet. They considered John a prophet. Herodias despised John because, he was trying to get Herod to telling Herod it wasn't lawful for him to be with her because that was his brother's wife. And Herodias also had a daughter with Herod's brother. But I don't know if it'll cover it in this. I think it does. We'll continue. You'll see what happens. She was a horrible, horrible woman. Did you fix it? How'd you fix it?
I'd rather find it.
Thank you. Sherm fixed an ink pen for me. On Herod's birthday, the daughter of Herodias, which would have been his niece, his brother's daughter, danced for him and pleased Herod so much that he promised with an oath in front of all his guests to give her whatever she asked. Prompted by her mother, she said, "Give me here on a platter the head of John the Baptist." That's what her mother told her daughter to ask for. So you just got to think how sick that woman was. That's what she wanted, a platter with the head of John the Baptist on it. Just a head of somebody on a platter. Just think of that. And wanting your daughter to see that. Sick woman. The king was distressed, but because of his oaths, and his dinner guests, he ordered that her request be granted, and had John beheaded in the prison. His head was brought in on a platter and given to the girl, who carried it to her mother. I don't know how the little girl even did that. John's disciples came and took his body and buried it. Then they went and told Jesus. See, it says they came and got his body and buried it, but it doesn't say anything about the head. Did they get his head too and get to bury it? Or did that sick woman Herodias keep the head or do something with the head? It doesn't say. I would like to know what happened to his head. If they got to bury it too, or she kept it. She was so disgusting. She probably kept it and probably wouldn't give it to them. She wanted to disgrace him even after death, I would say, by keeping his head. Sick woman. I hope when her daughter grew up, she was better than her mother. Yeah, I bet she didn't give it back to him. Jesus feeds the 5,000. I forgot. That's in here. When Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. As evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a remote place, and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food." Jesus replied, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." "We have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish," they answered. "Bring them here to me," he said. And he directed the people to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. The number of people who ate was about 5,000 men, besides the women and children who also ate. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowd. After he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone, but the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. During the 4th watch of the night, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I, don't be afraid." And, "Lord, if it is you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me!" Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "You truly are the Son of God." When they had crossed over, they landed at Gennesaret. And when the men of that place recognized Jesus, they sent word to all the surrounding country. People brought all their sick to him and begged him to let the sick just touch the edge of his cloak, because the people who did were healed. And all who touched him were healed. And they were. Remember that woman who had the bleeding disorder for 12 years, and she just touched his cloak when he was walking by and was healed automatically, was healed. And Jesus felt the power leave him, even though he was in a huge crowd of people. And she admitted to doing it. He knew. And he told her, you know, to go on, and she was healed. He wasn't mad at her. Okay, so that was all of chapter 14, guys. So let me put that over here. The devotion tonight is by Isabella Yasuko, and she has wrote some of these before. Okay, so let me read this. I have a nice singing voice. Mariah Carey need not worry, but I can definitely carry a tune. Even so, over the years, I've passed on several opportunities to sing publicly because of paralyzing stage fright. High school musical theater, college rock bands, coffee house folk singing with my own guitar, regardless of how much singing made my own heart sing, I was just too scared. Still, I knew I wouldn't be passing up a Grammy-winning career, so I moved on from my singing ambitions, and I was content to join in congregational worship when I became a Christian. And even then, when asked to join the choir by a pewmate, I declined. Yeah, but in a choir, you're with so many other people, though. Underneath, it was still fear. I loved the choir. I always was in choir in school. I loved choir. Right before I turned 50, I started to recount some of the if-onlys and what-ifs in my life. Yeah, don't we all? Don't we all? Asking God to show me what he still had for me. Our God is not limited by age or timing. That's right. And I knew that my walk with him had helped me overcome many fears. My answer came quickly when I noticed an invitation to choir rehearsal in our church's bulletin. Yes, get out there. I sensed the Holy Spirit coaxing me to just suit up and show up. Yes, you'll be with so many other people. You won't gotta do it alone. Go, go, go. Stepping into choir has been a healing joy, not only because of answered prayer and the courage to comfort my fear, but also because lifting my voice in worship has power to neutralize the stress and sorrow of life and to change my heart. In turn, I can share my gift of joy with others as I sing for an audience of one. Amen. Seems like the older people get, the less worried they are about doing things in front of others. It's like they're thinking, you know, my time on earth's about up. I'm going to do it while I can. I mean, like they're less afraid, it seems like. And it seems like not everybody, but a lot of people when they get older, they just change a lot. They start becoming nicer towards family members and stuff that they might not have been. Like they could have been really grouchy and mean with their kids when they were younger, didn't want to fool with them. But when they get older, they could be really nice and sweet towards their kids now and great with their grandkids. I see that a lot. I really do. Okay, so our homework tonight, if you want to do it, make a list of some things you'd like to do where fear is the primary limitation. Make a list of things you would like to do, but you're too afraid to do. Ask God to remove the fear and then choose to take a step towards your goal, feeling the fear and doing it anyways. Pray about the things you put on the list and ask God to help you overcome your fear and to let you have the strength to do those things that you want to be able to do. And even have other people pray if you want to tell them about those things. Okay, our next Bible study will be in the book of John. We'll do chapter 1. So I will get that set up here. So the verses we're supposed to be memorizing. How about we start with Philippians 4:13. Can you tell me what Philippians 4:13 says? I can do all things through him who gives me strength. So you can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. How about what's it? Proverbs 17:17. A friend loves at all times. Remember, not just when times are good, but also when times are bad. Because that's when a lot of people will abandon you, when times are bad. During the hard times, you'll see who your true friends are. That's when you'll find out who really cares. Okay, and lastly, how about Hebrews 13:8? One of the most important ones of the three I told you you should remember. It's about change. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Everybody in our lives will change. We'll change ourselves, but God and Jesus will never change. They will never change. Their love for us will never change. We will change on them. All throughout our lives will change on them. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, both. They'll still love us throughout all of it and be there for us. They will never change. They'll always be waiting on us to come to them, to come back to them, to turn our lives back around. They'll still be right there waiting. Still right there waiting when you need to talk to them. Still right there, always the same. Never going to change on you, never going to go nowhere. Remember that. And keep practicing your verses. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Let's bring those souls to Jesus, and I hope you guys have a good night's sleep. Good night, guys. God bless.